Can you just follow me around like the grocery store and like just like
100%.
announce me everywhere I go? Thank
Totally.
you so much, Jimmy.
You are quite welcome.
I am I'm so grateful to be here. ICF is very close to my heart. I am a sponsor of a chapter here in Raleigh. If any of you have done any ICF Raleigh events, I've been sponsoring the chapter for a few years and been a speaker for even longer than that for ICF. So really grateful to be with you all. I would much rather be in Florida today than North Carolina. It is too cold here, and I have a special place in my heart for Walt Disney World, which I know is not in your backyard per se, but it is much closer than I am today. So I am grateful to be with you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and do this magic where I'm going to show up on top of the slide. This is new to Zoom. So this is kind of fun. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. But thank you again for having me. And I am excited to share with you how to leverage AI in your story. So I like to nickname this talk your standout recipe. And the idea here is how to use AI tools and your story to package your process or productize your service. And I'm going to teach you, if you're not sure what I even mean by that, guess what? You're going to learn a lot today and get a lot out of it. Because I know all of you care so much about transforming people's lives and businesses, and maybe not so much about the business side, or maybe you do, and that's why you're here. But no matter how you feel, I'm going to pass some wisdom off to you as well as some really great action steps. I want this time to be really valuable for you. As Jimmy just touched on, I used to have a dream job working for a mouse. I used to work here at the Walt Disney Company in the Seven Dwarfs building. Maybe you can see why it was called that. And one of the biggest things I learned in the 5 years that I spent working as a storyteller, working on films like Maleficent and Cinderella, it was this maxim that I take with me every day, which is everything is how you tell the story. So I want you to think and just spend a moment and think about how you have been selling and marketing your coaching services, your coaching program, your coaching services. And I want you to consider this really important question, which is, are you just selling eggs? If you have been showing up on LinkedIn or at any of maybe at ICF event and you're talking about, hey, I have a 3 month package or this 6 month pack of coaching, what that sounds like to someone who may need you is not like a solution. It sounds like, who wants 3 months of eggs or 6 months of eggs? Nobody wants eggs. They want brunch. When you're really hungry and you just don't want to think, like, you don't want to have to go to the grocery store and buy raw ingredients, right? You want someone to serve you the best brunch, and you'll pay for the mimosa, and maybe you'll wait half an hour to an hour, time you could have made how many omelets in that amount of time, right? So how do we make this shift, and why should we make this shift from being, hey, we're just out here selling eggs, to we're selling and offering someone brunch? That is what I would call, and many would call, productizing your service or program. When you really take what you are offering as a coach and you make it a real solution, you turn it from eggs into brunch, it's going to be more valued by the people you share it with. You're going to be able to price it higher because it's going to be more valuable, right? It's going to be more profitable for you to deliver because most of this is your time, right? And you're going to be able to get better results for your clients and for yourself. And so, who doesn't want that? In a practical context, what does that look like in a business setting? I can show up to an event like this and go like, "Oh, hey, by the way, like if you need branding, I do like a logo and colors. I can do your about story. Here's this laundry list of stuff I do." But instead, when I'm out networking or I'm out speaking, I'm going to show up and say, "Hey, I'm Annie Franceschi. I'm a former Disney storyteller, and I'm known for the brand story solution. It's a done for you service where I'm going to help you do your clear marketing message, your consistent visual brand, and a compelling website that pulls it all together." This difference is called packaging your process. It's something I've been working on for the better part of 10 years and the work of hundreds of coaches and consultants to help them do the same thing. So that's what I'm talking about when I say your standout recipe. How are we going to get there? I've got some goals for us today. So the first thing I want you to get out of today is that you better understand what it means to package your services as a solution or productizing. We already started on that. Then I'm going to share with you my 4 secrets to doing that. What have I learned in helping so many people do this? Give you some strategies to use your story to brand your offers. And then we're going to use AI to help make that easier. So if AI freaks you out, don't worry. This is going to be a very introduction moment to AI. Even if you've been using it a lot, maybe I'm going to give you some ideas that you hadn't considered for how to use these really interesting new tools. So that said, here's our plan. I'm going to introduce you to something I call the post talk toolkit. We're going to meet our new friend AI. We're going to go through those 4 steps to package your process. I'll bring it all together. And then, like Oprah, I have a giveaway and I'll get to any questions you have. If you have questions as we go, I can see the chat, but I will say I don't want to interrupt what we're doing and I want to make sure everybody gets the content they wanted to learn. So please, feel free to share your question. Jimmy will capture it and we'll get to it when we get to questions. If it's something really quick, I might pick it up and answer it. So with that said, I did mention, I know I go to these kinds of things. I actually just came from one of them. You want some value out of your time today, right? You're spending time with me that you're not spending on your marketing, et cetera. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today, there are steps you can take coming out of today. So I've put together what I call a post talk toolkit. So if you want, basically, like, it's better than the slides. It's like all the key points I'm going to make, plus prompts for AI, an elevator pitch template, and more. It's here in the QR code. I'm going to put it in the chat and I'll share it later. But this is a great tool for you if you want to take action on what I share. I'm going to reference it throughout as a next step solution that's completely free. So with that being said, the AI of it all, we're going to meet our new friend AI. So for the purposes of today, there are so many pieces. Sorry, I'm seeing that someone sharing that maybe I'm blocking some of the information on the screen. I'll do a little bit of a different share here so I don't do that. Hang on one second. We'll change it because I want to make sure that you guys can see everything and make sure it's super valuable for you. All right, how is this? Does that look better for everybody? Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting me know. And don't worry, that you can literally just go to the link that I shared that will have that same information. So meet your new friend AI. So for the purpose of today, I don't want to overwhelm you. So we're going to start with some tools you may have already used, one of which is Canva. So Canva is not an AI tool by trade, but it has some AI features, which I'll be sharing with you today. We'll be talking about ChatGPT as well, but this can stand in for Claude, for Gemini, any sort of AI tool that you're using to help you write better or to come up with language or ask it kind of broader questions. So it's not an image generator necessarily. It's something you're going to more for words. I think when I first thought of ChatGPT, it felt very intimidating. And one of the ways that I have been able to play with it over the past year and really use it to save myself time, help me brainstorm, and actually make my business better is by reframing ChatGPT to this guy. So when I think of ChatGPT, I think of Chad. So I want you to meet Chad, or Chad GPT. He is your well-meaning intern. So I think people are making a mistake. The average person who is not an AI pro or not super tech savvy, it's going to take you time to learn these tools. And right now, if you go to you go to Chad and you ask him to write your marketing plan, some junk is going to come out. Like some good stuff will come out, but some junk will also come out. And it kind of sounds sometimes like an alien who read a marketing book, right? Certainly, unlike the power of transformation, rocket emoji, right? So I think the best way, if you're getting started with AI and you are not this natural born AI marketer, is to treat it like a well-meaning intern. Because certainly Chad's not going to do the great work for you or do the great marketing for you, but he can help you just the way an intern would. It can save you time, help you brainstorm, refine, keep yourself moving. A big thing I want to impart to you about growing a business and marketing one is that done is better than perfect. And Chad can help you get more done. So the other thing I'll say today about AI is that, as Jimmy touched on, I did not go to law school. I went to film school. So make sure that you read the copyright and understand what you're using and how you're using it when you use AI tools. That said, let's get to the meat of today so you can really take something away and start to brand your services and your programs more clearly and in more compelling ways. So I call that your 4 steps to packaging your process. The first step is actually not about picking a service or pricing it or anything like that. It's about getting really clear on how you position yourself as an expert. So this is not about showing up and saying all the things you can do. It's answering the questions, what are you greatest at? So we're going to do a little show of hands here in the chat. So come check out the chat for just a moment. I want you to answer with me. Just give me the letter of choice that feels like you. What feels most like your coaching practice right now? Is it A, a variety of services for many different types of clients? Or is it B, you're known for maybe one signature service or program, you specialize in one type of client? Let's just hear how people are falling. We've got some B's. B, 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 B. Cool. B. Oh, I was gonna say, are we only Bs? No, we've got some As, we've got some ABs. Haven't seen any secret answer Cs, but maybe that'll pop up one day. Okay, so everyone's in a little bit different of a place. Some people are in an A season, some are in a B, some are a little bit in between. I want to tell you a little bit about my A season. And that has a lot to do with this amazing salad bar that is in Los Angeles called Mrs. Winston's. So when I worked in the film industry, I would go get lunch at Mrs. Winston's and I would put together a salad, and they had probably 100+ ingredients. And I would go around and literally they would do this thing where they would you could win your salad if you could guess exactly how much it weighed. Right? It was like literally by the pound. And I would go around and I would put everything in a salad that I like to eat. So I'd be like, okay, some lettuce, I'll do some bacon, I'll do some mandarin oranges. Oh, I like Caesar dressing. Let me put some Caesar dressing on it. And inevitably, every single time I'd get down on my seat, I'd start to eat the salad, and it would be the most mediocre salad in the world. Because you know what does not belong on a Caesar salad is mandarin oranges. Like what is it that I am thinking here, right? So I literally paid by the pound for it. Fine, whatever. It's the whatever salad. Conversely, across town is a restaurant called Granville. And that is where I ordered this amazing salad created by the chef that I don't have to do a single thing to. I change nothing about my order. Maybe I get a glass of wine with lunch, or I get a dessert. I pay probably 3 to 4 times for this salad than I do for that price by the pound. But that's the difference. That's the thing that really solves my hunger, makes me feel great, makes me feel like I made a great decision. So that is really the difference. And that's what I want to encourage you to be thinking less about being a salad bar and more about being the chef. All of us go through salad bar seasons and chef seasons, right? Some of you are A's and some of you are B's, but I want to talk to you a little bit about the differences between them and put a big caveat around, hey, lots of businesses look like salad bars, but they have tons of resources to support that salad bar season or that salad bar focus, right? Apples, the Googles, the Amazons. We can't copy playbooks from companies that we don't have the employees, the resources, the money, the teams, etc. So what can we do? I want to talk to you a little bit about how this plays out in a business or marketing context. When I first started my business about 10 years ago, I was so in love with how creative it was. It was this idea of, hey, I'm greatest story creative. I help you tell your business in your wedding, your event, your business, tell a story in your business, your resume, your job seeking. Like, it was nuts. And I love the idea. It was so creative, and I had this whole story to pull it all together. Maybe you've heard of this strategy. By others, it's known as hedging your bets. I was taking literally everything I could do and trying to make it, for sale, right? It was a salad bar. But something that I have come to say and really believe is that if you aim to be known for everything, you will not be known for anything. So here's kind of where the pitfalls fall if you are like me and that you are the only person in your business and you don't have infinite marketing dollars, infinite time, infinite resources. When you are someone who has maybe too many services, what can happen is you don't get referred. You don't get referred as the expert or the perfect fit coach because people aren't really sure what you specialize in. So they're less confident to talk about you. A part of that is also people don't remember what you do. You tell people 5 things, they're not going to remember it. Right. So think about when you've had these conversations with people networking, you're like, oh, gosh, I don't even remember what she does because she said she did these 10 things. Because of this, you can make yourself a lot harder to refer. Right? You want people to be sharing your information, but if you're giving them too much story, too much information, too many services, they're not going to really take you seriously as the expert. They're not going to feel as confident making those connections. Conversely, if that's the services part of it, if you have too many types of clients, maybe you have one service, but you're trying to serve all these different kinds of clients. When you try to talk to everybody at once, nobody hears you. A lot of people come to me. I've written 100 brand voice guides for messaging, and they're like, well, I want to take all these things and make it all make sense. Like, it's the greatest story creative of these 4 different businesses, right? Okay, well, you can do that. But the reason it's never really going to catch on is because you're trying to talk to everybody all at once. And if you say, like, well, McDonald's talks to everybody all at once. No, they don't. If you really look at what McDonald's does, they have whole marketing teams and departments to segment, to reach people in different demographics, reach people who are interested in different things, reach different kinds of people. They niche down. They just do it on a global billion-dollar scale. Okay. We don't see that. It's more behind the scenes, right? But we are reached by it. So we can't be copying their playbook. We have to be speaking more specifically to people because, again, we're trying to reach 3 different kinds of people. No one's going to hear us if we're talking all at the same time. because there's never going to be enough bandwidth, money, or time to market to all of them well. That is what I learned when I had these 4 different areas of my business. It took me a couple years and really looking at the numbers and where my time was going and realizing I wasn't running one creative business. I was running 4 different businesses and none of them particularly well. When I chose to pick what I was greatest at, which was the business branding and positioning, and let the other things go, my revenue tripled and I got to do less marketing. So it's like, wait, I made more money, but worked less and did less marketing. That was the difference of giving up the salad bar to become the chef. So, how can you become a chef? How do we get our heads around having this high valued service that everybody wants to work with us for? Well, I think the first step is to do what I call defining your brand chips. So this is an acronym I came up with. It's CHIPS. Here's a bit of what it stands for. It's the idea of you don't have enough time for someone to become an expert on you. So when you only have a few seconds or a little bit of time with someone, what are the most essential things you could communicate them to be clear about who you are, what you do, who you really, really help, who are you the best referral for, right? So how can you get focused on that? Because the idea is if you want to be a card in somebody's deck, you got to put all your chips on the table, right? That's where it comes from. If you like it better as a food analogy, I'm cool with that too. So this is a foundation of literally almost every piece of the work I do, whether I'm writing a brand voice guide, creating a website, I'm helping somebody package their offer into a service. It all starts here because this really forces you into a framework of, well, what am I really doing? What kind of coach am I? Who is the best fit for how I'm going to help? So I love this because not only when you figure it out is it great, you can also plug it into an elevator pitch. So I mentioned that toolkit, right? That free toolkit, that elevator pitch template is going to be included in that. We're going to pause here in just a minute to do a little brainstorming together, but I don't want to leave out the AI of it all and talk to you about how Chad can make this a little easier. So, one of the fun ways that I've used Chad or Chat GPT is to take my reviews, testimonials, feedback I've gotten from clients, and information about me, like my bio, and put it in to pull out themes. I really like this as a tool to take a lot of information or data and start to tell me things about it, the things I wouldn't have time to do or the skill set to be able to pull out those themes. So, from this, you can start to figure out, well, what am I greatest at? What do my clients value about me? So, some of the things you see here on the screen are like, well, how do clients describe their problems? What do they think my strengths are? Like, what are they valuing about me? How are they describing the results they get? Right? How does my experience connect to how I help clients? And I will say, I know this is going to come up, so I'm going to go ahead and get ahead of it. And it's like a lot of coaches will tell me, like, well, Annie, it's the container and everybody's transformation is different. But still, look at your favorite clients. There are going to be themes, there are going to be shared experiences and things that you might not even see. And this is a really great way to see that at a high level. It's not going to be effective for you, or I'd say it's going to be a more of an uphill climb for you in your marketing if you always come at it, well, I can't say any sort of outcome is going to happen. It's like, well, then why should someone invest in your service or program? You have to paint some sort of picture for them. We're going to talk more about that today. So this is one way you can use Chat. And I've actually got prompts that kind of like Mad Libs that you can put into this tool that are in that toolkit. So with that said, I just want to come back to this idea of chips. And I'll leave it on the elevator pitch template side because it'll give you a sense of what this is. Let's take a few minutes and I just want you to pick one of the chips. So it's your category, hook, ideal client, problem, and solution. I want you just to pick one of those to define. The category is the thing that you are most clearly the sort of encyclopedia that you fit into. So I'm going to hit on this, but everyone who's a life coach hates being called a life coach. But if that's really the encyclopedia you're in, you want to use that context to your advantage. So that would be the category. If you are technically a life coach, even though you call yourself something completely different and don't like the connotation of it, right? Same with business coaching, those sorts of things. Like, what kind of coaching do you fall into if you are a coach? I'm going to make that assumption. The hook is what you are most known for. So it is the thing that when people are talking about you in an elevator or something, you're like, oh gosh, she like really can help you with that. Like for me, the hook is helping you clearly tell your story. It's like, oh, you're struggling with how to tell your story, or you feel like you're not being clear. You should talk to Annie. Ideal clients, kind of what it sounds like. It's that, what's that group of people you should be in front of? For me, coaches, consultants, and service business owners. For others, it might be like working moms. For others, it might be women in STEM. Like, what is that group that you should be in front of and talking to more often? The problem is how they describe their problem. What's the most common problem you're hearing from the clients you've loved helping or the clients you want to help? How do they talk about it, not how you talk about it? That's a big part of today. And then the solution is your answer to that. What maybe it's some sort of, and this we're going to talk more about this branded service, but it's going to be some sort of service or, could be overall coaching. But today we're going to try to get down to a service. What is that answer? If I'm struggling with X, what is Y? My problem is I know what I do, but I struggle to communicate it, right? And my solution is a done for you branding solution, right? The three pieces, the message, the visuals, the website. It speaks to that. So I'll pause here and give you a moment. Just pick one of these for today and know that you can get that template. I'll put it here in the chat while you're working on it. And I'll watch the chat if anybody has any clarifying questions while we work on it.
So Annie, you're probably looking for some of those people who wrote a letter B to offer up their elevator pitch, maybe, since they're already somewhat clarified.
If anybody feels like they want to take a stab at it, I know this usually takes, I do a whole talk that's just about doing this elevator pitch. But that's one of the reasons I'm passing it on is that, you can spend more time with it. But if there's anybody who at this point would want to share their elevator pitch, or one of their chips, I'd love to hear it. If you want to, I think if everybody knows how to raise your hand on Zoom, that would probably help us to know if you wanted to share live with us.
Oh, Susan Klein's got her hand up.
Susan's old school raising her hand. That's fine. That works too.
I'm very old school. I am the oldest old school. So, yeah, sure, I'll go. So I work with executives who want to develop their leadership competencies so that they can grow and create heroes of others.
So I have one question for you, Susan. So it's like, so they can grow and create heroes of others. Is that something that your clients have said that they want?
Yeah.
Okay. So they've come to you and said, I want to create heroes of others.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They want to take the focus off of themselves and grow other people so that the other people are heroes, not the focus on themselves.
But that's how they've languaged it to you?
Yep.
Okay.
Does it sound
at
awkward?
The beginning? Yeah.
Yeah. Does that sound?
No, I just. It doesn't. I was just curious if that's something that they say after they've worked with you or before.
Mostly before. When we get down to the nitty gritty of what it is they want to accomplish in the executive coaching and the focus on leadership development. They say, I need to be able to create heroes out of the other people who work for me.
Got it. Okay. Great. Yeah. I think it was one of those that sounded, sometimes when we come up with a great piece of messaging, sometimes it can be great, but doesn't connect because it's not something that they actually say or resonate with, but it sounds like you've tested that and it's come from their words, which is great, which is why I'm using the word curious, right? Curious, not assuming. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Thanks for taking us up on it. And Eric, thank you in the chat for sharing, and Keisha, thank you also for sharing as well. This is wonderful. Okay, great. All right, so we're going to keep moving today. And if anybody wants to share more, I'm happy to hear your elevator pitches if you ended up, or anything you wanted to share about your chips. But with that, the first step is to position yourself as an expert. The second step is about that service or solution. So I call it craft a branded solution. So this is making that shift from, hey, we are done selling eggs. And selling eggs looks like, hey, I have this great half-day leadership training. That is not as compelling as showing up and saying, I've got taming toxicity. It's an interactive workshop to demystify, destigmatize, and better address toxic dysfunctional behaviors, right? You can feel the difference in that. It's much clearer. It's much more of a solution. Same thing with this. You can show up and say 3 months of private coaching sessions, or you can say, you know what? I think we should do tune into your team. It's my 3-month coaching experience to help you communicate more effectively, navigate uncertainty, and get focused and organized. Maybe some of you do HR consulting, the 6-month of HR consulting, coaching, and training, or fast track to impact, which is all about a custom onboarding program to help protect your investments when you have new leaders. So what does it mean to make that shift from, hey, I've got this thing, to I have this amazing, confident, branded solution? Here are some best practices for you to be thinking about. The first is, well, what do you start with? I think the approach that I'm teaching you today, I have seen, and I myself have applied to nearly everything I offer in my practice. But I would say the first thing to start with and to really go out in the world with is the thing that either is your most valuable package or the best introduction to your services. Sometimes you may have a model where your ideal client most times your ideal client is not going to have the time or the money to start with your most valuable package. So they need something that we would call like your best introduction. So one really good example that I've worked with a client on is she's a sales consultant and coach, and she was finding that she wasn't getting a lot of bites on her 3-month sales coaching experience. And I hypothesized that part of the reason was her ideal clients are short on time and they really want to see some results. They need to get more people in their pipeline. And so when they're short on time and they need sales, the last thing they wanted to do was to spend 3 months on like a guess if that was going to help them. So we fixed this by instead her lead branded solution is not the 3-month program. She still sells it. It's a secondary offer. Her primary offer became a VIP day called Level Up Your Leads. So in one day, you start to get some leads for your practice or for your business by putting together an initial sales strategy. So that has been a lot more successful for her. So that's why I say, like, when you want to pick something, you want to really think about what is that way that like 90% of people should come into your world based on their disposable income, readiness, time. Are they a great fit for that higher level package, or what is that right place they come into the work with you, knowing that they can still become those bigger clients later. Whatever you choose, similar to how we just talked about level up your leads, it should be a very clear solution to your ideal client's big problem. That is why I would have you define what is the most common the most common problem I solve. What is that best solution, at the thing that people should be introduced to, or that most valuable thing. You're going to want to think about what that format should look like. So already a couple of these have come up, like a leadership training, consulting. It could be 3 months of coaching, and that's completely fine. Everything has to have some sort of an underlying structure, right? That's what eggs are an ingredient in brunch, right? We still have to have those ingredients. VIP day, retreat, workshop, a year-long retainer. There are lots of different ways. You'll want to brand it with some sort of a positive name, something that gets at what people are going to get out of this or what they're worried about, something that's going to make them feel good about whatever it is they're choosing to do with you. And then another big piece of this is people will name their program, but they won't get clear on what the promise of the program is. What are those 2 to 3 main highlights, benefits, deliverables? What are they going to get out of this, or what can they expect in general terms using their language, not yours? That's a little bit of what I was asking a little bit about with Susan. So when we start to think about how do we craft this branded solution, Chad is here to help. So in that same thread where you had already given it some information about you, some of your reviews, things like that, you can then start to ask it questions about this branded solution. So like you can ask it for a list of what kinds of offers you might have. So maybe you're not sure if it's a VIP day or a 3-month thing or whatever. You can actually use a prompt and ask it, okay, like I'm this kind of coach. Give me the ideas of the kinds of formats I could offer to an ideal client. You could ask it to come up with names for you. I personally like instead to ask for feedback on names. Like maybe I'm split between 2 and I want to get like, what's the connotation of this word versus that? Get some feedback, or try to figure out, maybe I have like the great alliteration. I'm trying to figure out one more word that begins with I. And so I'm like, give me all positive words that start with I. right? Those sorts of things. And then you also use it, those 2 to 3 main benefits are likely going to be things that your clients claimed as results or things that they were looking for at the very beginning, right? When they started to work with you. So there are actual prompts for this if you want to take me up on that idea. So that's the next step. Position yourself as an expert, craft a branded solution. Then what do you do? This third piece of all of it is actually really important. And so few people do it that I've actually created what I would call like sort of a proprietary process for how to do it. So this idea of making your service more visual and easy to explain. I have found in a decade of entrepreneurship that the clearer your solution is, the easier and faster yes you're going to get from clients. So if you've been struggling with your sales calls, this is going to be a secret weapon for you, because I too struggled with my sales calls and I used to hate them. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but I really have to say, and I owe this so much to a coach, actually. I was on the phone with her back in the day when we sometimes did phone calls, right? And I remember explaining the brand story solution as you've seen it on that visual. And she's just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm sure this is great, Annie, but do you have anything visual, like any chance that you have a visual? And that for me has been a $500,000 question. When she said, do you have a visual? And I made one and started using it in my practice, I have sold over $500,000 of services without sales pages, just with one graphic, one PDF. It's this idea of a picture paints 1,000 words. So where is yours? So even if you have a great service, are you making it visual? I call this the offer one pager. You've already seen mine, but I'm going to give you some examples of services we've already heard about from students who've gone through a workshop I teach called Package Your Process. So the offer one pager is something they put together when they've done step 1 and 2. They do this third step and they say, hey, bring me in for Taming Toxicity workshop. We're going to cultivate highly engaged and highly retained teams in your organization. They're going to be able to get ahead of toxic behaviors, improve their self-awareness, and apply their lessons learned. This is clearly a valuable solution. It doesn't have a million things on the slide. There's obviously more detail here, but this is one way for Kim, who's here on the slide, to be able to sell this into stakeholders. Another example was tune into your team. If you want to lead your team confidently and effectively, you need tune into your team. It's going to help you do X, Y, and Z, right? You can see it right here. Very simple. The value is clear. Same with fast track to impact. What is that going to do? Who is leading it? What does it do to help protect the new leader you hired and the team you're trying to integrate them with? What are sort of the nuts and bolts? It's all here. So if you don't, maybe you have a great solution, but you don't have a visual for it, this is such a good takeaway from today. You don't necessarily need my offer one pager library. I do offer that as part of a workshop. I have like a whole Canva library, but the really cool thing, and I promised you I would talk about Canva, is that Canva can help you out here. So Canva actually has some built-in layouts, and all an offer one pager truly is showing those 2 to 3 main benefits and the name of the service and a little bit about what it is, right? There's different strategies to it, but that's generally the idea. If you go to design on Canva, as you see here on the screen, you go to this like design piece, and then you go to layout, under layouts, and you type in 3 options. There are options under presentation, there are options under website, but you get all these really great ready to go layouts. And all you have to do is add your branding, right? Add their stock photos if you want to, but suddenly you have something to work with built in, free, even with the free level of Canva. So we love that piece. I'm seeing a quick question, which is there a psychology behind the number of visuals 3? I would say it varies. Some people have, maybe there's 2, maybe there's 4. It's just sort of an average. I think you don't want it to sound, again, like it does whatever your solution is does a million things. You really want to narrow it down. And I think people can sort of embrace the 3. That's just generally how it's knitted out, is the average. Jimmy says 3 is the magic number. I am not a psychologist. I'm sure there probably is something to that. But I tend to go with what makes sense. I've definitely like Package Your Process. The workshop is 4 things. It's not 3 things. So it's really just about what it is you're selling. And I think there's definitely permission to be fluid. I don't know if I would do more than 4, just especially because then it starts to get like, you're trying to tell me it does too many things, and I don't believe you. Right. So really getting it down. Often too, what I'll do with clients is condense. So I just did this with a VIP day client last week, where we got all their chips together and they had all these like 5 different things they did. And we were actually able to get it down to 3. And I think the more concise you can be, people are busy and they don't have time to become experts on you. So there is a utility to less is more, right? That's the idea. So you can build an offer one pager using Canva. You can also use stock photos on Canva for some visual hacks today. So we're going to talk about that. You can use stock photos to enhance your offer's benefits. Most of the pictures you saw came from Canva or Canva Pro. Canva Pro has a better level of stock photos. I think it's a pretty great deal for all the stuff Canva's giving you. And we'll talk a little bit about Canva's AI feature in just a second. But you can also use some of Canva's graphics and tools and stock photos to enhance your own brand photography. So I can show up to something like this and say, guys, you've got to stop selling eggs. You need to sell brunch. And I got brunch. I just pulled it from Canva. So this little egg dish and the mimosa are actually stock graphics from Canva that I put in here, and then I put a little animation on it, right? So that's one way to take it to the next level. I definitely could have put something else on the screen if I wanted to, right? But I also promised you not only Canva, but Canva and AI. So what other ways can you make your services more pop more and to tell more of the stories you want to tell? You can use Magic Media. So Magic Media is a built-in AI app within Canva. I started with Canva because most of you already have used it or you've heard of it, right? So there are also other things like Midjourney and Dolly, and I think even ChatGPT now, Gemini, have some of this image generation stuff. But if you're a little bit wary of that, Canva has this app within it called Magic Media. And I literally used it to create Chad. So I thought this was really great. I just put in this like idea. I basically told it, hey, I want a friendly robot smiling at the camera while working on a laptop in an office. Here are some of the options I got. And some of them are a little scary and a little off-putting. I think we picked the most overly eager one. Hopefully you would agree. But these ones on the right were trying to me show like a woman coach working, just didn't really work, right? So you can kind of feel this out. And what's really neat about it is not only can you give it a prompt for something you need, you can actually tell it more about what you want. So, it gives me these 4 options. And then I click the little 3 dots and say, generate more like this. Right. So if there was one I really liked of Chad, I could get a couple more of that style. If you see the left, you can actually change it from like I had it under digital art and playful, but maybe I wanted it to look more like a photograph, right? Or I wanted it to look more in this style or neon or whatever. You can change the styles as well. So the other thing I'll say too is that obviously a lot of people can use these tools. They could use that same prompt and get a similar thing. What are some other ways you can use your creativity to make it yours? So things like you can make him Chad, right? So I grabbed a badge that's actually just a picture of a like employee badge, and then I put the word Chad on it. So now it's really something that no one could just get directly from AI, right? So some ways to kind of personalize. The other thing I'll say too is that this is really useful if you're trying to get a point across. So if you are trying to visualize something in your one pager or just in your marketing in general. I had this thing I wanted to talk about. We're going to talk about sales mindset. But one of the things that I've been learning and I wanted to share was like, I think there's this, we've all been taught not to be salesy. And so the result is we tend to hide our services under a rock. And I really wanted to tell that story in a visual way. And I was like, God, I really wish I had a stock photo of like a rock with like a flower growing underneath it. Cause this idea of like, we want to sell, but we don't want to be caught selling. We don't want to really be seen as salesy. But the effect of that is that we're expecting our ideal clients to turn over rocks, right? And that is not going to lead to a sustainable practice or help us help the people we want to help. So I was like, I'm going to make this LinkedIn post. I'm going to go into Canva's AI and say, I need a picture of like a mountaintop and a rock and a golden flower growing beneath it. And here we are. So this was the image I actually used on LinkedIn, and I'll put my LinkedIn profile here if any of you want to connect or check out the specific post. But it is a really great way to get your point across. I thought this was awesome. Like this totally worked and didn't look goofy at all. And I was like, well, I didn't have to climb a mountain and place a flower there, right? To make the point I wanted to make. So coming around the bend, and I want to make sure we're going to save some time for your questions. And I know there are a couple questions coming through as well. But this piece of position yourself as an expert, craft a branded solution, make that service visual and easy to explain. All of that is great, but we got to also talk about selling. And some of you might not love this. So this is the idea of, or at least on the face of it, right? Selling with ease, not sleaze. Let me know in the comments. Do you hate selling, love it, or you're sort of neutral about it? I welcome comments that are emotional. You can say, ugh, you can say, yay, How do you feel about when I say selling in your business? We got some strong hate. We got some exclamation point hate. We got some love it. Okay. Yuck. I love it. Can be fun. I love it. Okay. Dislike it. Okay. We're seeing a couple more. The sleazier, the better. Yeah, that's right. That's what we're going to teach today. I don't know yet. That's a fair comment. Yeah, exactly. So I will tell you that I used to hate selling, and that hating selling almost killed my business. It almost completely destroyed my business 3 years in. And the difference now, I would say today that I love selling. And if I could do just discovery calls and consults all day, like I would be a super happy camper. And my business is all the better for it. And the difference is twofold. So how do I go from like, I hated selling to now it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite thing to do in my business? Two things changed: my mindset and my strategies around selling. So I want to talk to you briefly about what were these mindset shifts? How can you adopt them? I'm willing to bet that those of you in the chat who said that you love selling, a lot of these are going to resonate with you. And those of you who hate selling maybe haven't been introduced to some of these other ways of thinking about it and other ways of practicing it. Because I will say that I used to be so afraid of being this lazy salesperson that I wasn't selling myself at all. And that was not helping anything. So I want to teach you, here are the 4 things that have really helped me and pass them on to you. So these are 4 mindset shifts for sleaze-free selling productized services. So if you're all on board for this productized service, but you really want to sell it, but you're afraid to, or maybe you don't want to sell it, and we need to talk about that. But this idea of you really want to help people. That's what I hear consistently from coaches. You want to help people change their life, their business, or both. So for you to do that, you need to sell something, right? And so it's not about, I'm not here to teach anything around getting uncomfortable with awkwardness or things, forcing anything on anyone. Here are those 4 things. The first thing is sales is service. This was super eye-opening to me. I remember I was very skeptical of coaching at the time, but I knew I had a problem in my business. I knew I needed either ask for help or I needed to give up. Whenever my sales had kind of dwindled after the first few years. So I reached out to a business mindset coach who, she used to say like she could help people sell without selling their soul. And is in particular women. So I reached out to her. We did a VIP day, even though again, I thought coaching was super hippy dippy, like not for me. I thought I had to do everything myself. But she really helped me to see that sales service. And I was really all about, this idea of like worrying that I was going to make people uncomfortable, right? Like I didn't want to be this sleazy salesperson. And she's like, Annie, people are coming to you because they have a problem. They are uncomfortable because something in their life or their business they're struggling with. You are there to help and to serve. And to really change that whole idea. Like for me, when I'm in a sales call, make a sale. Like I don't show up to any free consultation with someone in that mindset. I show up in the mindset of I'm here to listen and help the person in front of me get the best solution possible. I'm going to help them. I'm going to serve them, right? Make sure they have a good experience. Make sure if they are struggling with something that they have some clarity around what to do next, even if that includes me, and especially if it doesn't. So that is one way that I've started to say, like, I have to show up in a certain way, and I have to, any sales call I'm having, I'm not dependent on that one client to make it. So there's no desperation there. And that I have this idea of like, look, if I serve people well, my business will do well. And that has definitely served me. So if you've been nervous about this, is one way to kind of go into these conversations. Related to that, but a little bit different, was something else I realized, which I needed to step into the shoes of selling as a doctor and not a friend. I was so concerned that someone would think I was a sleazy salesperson that I would be like, yeah, no, I could do your logo, or like, you could do it. I just believe in you. I just want you to do great things. Like, you have such an amazing business. And like, if you went to a doctor and there was something wrong with your leg, maybe you had some pain in it, whatever, and you were like, yeah, you explained the problem. And the doctor was like, okay, well, we could do this treatment, or like, you could get better on your own. Like, I just believe in you. I just want you to live this happy life. You'd be like, who is this quack? Get me out of here. Right. So it's recognizing that when someone's coming to a free consultation or a free coaching session with you, they need you to show up with authority. They are looking to you as someone who provides solutions, someone who can help them. And when you cede that expertise, when you check your authority at the door to be the buddy and not the expert, they are not going to value what you have to say. They're not listening anymore, and they're not perceiving you as a solution the way you would with a doctor. So I want to encourage you to think about being the best doctor you can be, right? The most compassionate, great bedside manner, right? The best listener, but you're truly there to listen and prescribe. That doesn't mean you have all the answers. I know that the coaches in the room going, well, I don't have all the answers. I know you don't have all the answers, but you are there to help point the way. You are there to help someone find the right solution, service, program, next step they need to take. And a great doctor worth their salt is going to recommend themselves if they think they're the right provider. They're going to recommend or make a referral to a specialist, right? They'd be willing to give up the client because that's what's in the best interest of the person in front of them. They're going to prescribe what they know from their expertise to be useful, but they're also going to make room for questions and curiosity and support. Right. So I think showing up in those ways, for me, I didn't have this traditional path to being a branding strategist. I didn't go to brand strategy school. I taught myself to a large extent. But I did work for Disney, right? And I do have those 5 years at Disney. I now have 10 years of helping hundreds of people. I have legitimate experience, but I don't have the perfect experience. So I felt more safe being the friend, right, than the doctor. But you are there to be the doctor. So be the best doctor you can be. And that's something that's completely revolutionized things for me. The third thing, very much related to what we just talked about with offer one pagers, is make it easy. I can't tell you how many consultants and coaches I've tried to hire who are so confused about what they offer, and they make hiring them or even talking to them so difficult, right? You want to show up in your conversations with something like a one pager and say, hey, here's what I do, and here's how it helps. Here are lots of different ways you can use a tool like this to make it easier for people to work with you. If you make it easy, you're going to see more clients, you're going to get them better results, right? So you can print it out for networking events. You can print it as a takeaway if you speak. You can show it at your in-person consults. You can show it in presentations, proposals. You can use it in a Zoom consult, all of those good things. So that's just a couple ways you can make it easier for people to see the value of what you do, make it easier to set meetings with you. Don't make me jump through a bunch of hoops to even talk to you about being my coach. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to move on, right? So make it easy. The fourth thing, it's actually not even in the toolkit yet. It's brand new to this talk, but I think it's really important. It's something I struggle with. Let me know if you see yourself sometimes as a perfectionist or a people pleaser or a recovering perfectionist or people pleaser. I would like to think I'm in the latter category, but that both things kind of show up for me. And I think one of the biggest reasons that I hesitate when it comes to self-promotion, marketing, sales is I am worried about being criticized. Right. So I don't know if you feel that, let me know in the comments if you've ever felt that way. But something that's really helped me a lot to think about this is what I call don't cater to the critic. So my dad, who worked in advertising, used to say, one oh shit, pardon my French, is worth 1,000 attaboys. And what he meant by that, and what is really resonates with me, is like, one negative comment somehow has the same emotional weight of 1,000 positive ones. But this can be really dangerous and really hurtful to your growth as a business owner and a person if you let that be the reality. And something that's really helped me is look at the data and the information that you get, and don't let one critic turn your head every single time. Because when you start to really grow and try to get your name out there and grow your visibility, which you have to do if you're going to grow your practice, you're going to have people give you advice up the yin yang. You're going to have people make negative comments. It doesn't happen all the time, but again, I'm still literally, I added this because I got one negative comment about this specific presentation months ago. And it's here for that reason, but for the reason of I got the comment. And I was like, and the whole thing was the gist of the comment was, yeah, I thought the content was really great. And Annie said all this stuff about having an authentic sales process, but I could tell it was a sales process. And it's like, well, yeah, it's a sales process because I'm a business owner and we shouldn't be afraid of that. I remember seeing that, and Annie from a few years ago would have been like, I have to change this presentation. Oh my gosh. And I have to change everything about my process. And I was like, no, what's the data? Is she a critic or is she a potential fan? this particular person was not a fit for my practice, right? Like didn't get what I had to say, wasn't going to be a fit. But there were several people on that call that became clients who are like some of my favorite people now, who I just met months ago. And like, we're doing this incredible work together. If I gave that one person all that oxygen and changed everything around because one person said something negative, I would be missing out on those people who it was exactly what they needed to hear. Right. And it was empowering to them. And they saw it was okay to have a sales process. You know, it was okay that Annie wasn't hiding her services under a rock. I wouldn't be living the truth of what I'm trying to tell you and teach you today if I were doing that. Right. So the next time somebody makes a comment to you, put something, tells you shouldn't self-promote, or just, you know, we've all had those comments. And sometimes they come from people who are really close to us. Consider if they're the critic or they're really part of your potential fan club, because the goal can't be to please everybody, because we're never going to please everybody. Right. And I've just seen too many people are so nervous about their marketing and their selling to begin with, that one person says something negative and then they don't, that the effect on you is you stop talking about your services. You start hiding them under a rock again. And that's not going to serve the incredible people that need you. Right. It's going to serve the critic who is never going to hire you to begin with. Right. So don't cater to the critic. So the 4 pieces here are: sales as service, sell as a doctor, not the friend, make it easy, and don't cater to the critic. Now, with that said, we're going to bring it all together. So how do we make this shift from just being anybody coach who does 3 months and 6 months of services? We're going to start selling more brunch. So how do we show up and offer brunch in authentic and welcoming ways? It's a 4-part recipe to package your process. So we talked about positioning yourself as an expert, crafting a branded solution, making that solution more visual and easy to explain. We want to sell it with ease and not sleaze. We're going to use folks like Chad and models like AI models like that to brainstorm, refine, and get ourselves going, because done is better than perfect. And then we're going to use tools like Canva to make it more visual and easier to share with others. So we are armed, right? Like we have something to make it easier for people to understand. The big thing here is that all of this is going to look different for every single one of you. And it is so important to remember that the real magic of the recipe, the secret ingredient, is you, your story, your experience, your expertise, the heart, the gifts that you have, what you bring to the table are the things that are going to change the game. They are the things that make you authentic, that make people want to connect with you, et cetera. So all of those things, I've hopefully given you some tools to bring them into these principles, because as I shared, everything is how you tell the story. So with that, I do have some giveaways for you. So I did mention this at the top, but in case you missed it or you wanted to grab it, I do have this toolkit. So this is literally like a printable version of what I just said, the prompt. So if you want to test out what I'm saying with ChatGPT, the elevator pitch template, try it out. It's here for you. It is an opt-in for my list if you want to get more resources from me. If you don't, you can unsubscribe. Just don't mark it as spam. And that's just a heads up for anybody. Don't mark people as spam if you sign up for their list. Just unsubscribe, because it can hurt everybody's sending opportunities. So that being said, if I'm going to open it up for questions shortly, but if you know what you do and you struggle to communicate it, if you need help to productize your offers or package your process, I do offer the brand story solution that I talked about earlier, which is done for you branding services. And then I also am teaching a workshop on package your process. So if you thought this was great and you wish you could just run through it with me in a supportive group cohort, that is coming this May. More is going out about it shortly, but if you love this, it's literally the principles we just talked about. So that being said, if you want to talk to me about it, you have questions today that you do not want to ask in front of other people for whatever reason, you can set a free time to talk with me. I'm going to drop my calendar here in the chat. These are times that are just set aside for ICF Florida. So when you go and check it out, South Florida, excuse me. So go check it out. It's first come, first serve. I'll send you a confirmation in the next hour or so if you sign up, but check it out. These are just times for you guys. And the idea is exactly what I talked about with those sales principles, right? So my job will be to help you get to the right person or the right solution, even if that is me and even if it's not. So if that sounds good to you or you need that, I'm here for you. So with that said, I'm happy to share those links again as needed, but let's take the time together to dive into your questions today. Anything you want to talk about that came up for you, things that you're wondering about. I know there was a question or two that we didn't pause for. So I know Jimmy grabbed those. Maybe we'll start there. But thank you so much. I'm so glad that we can share this lunchtime together.
Thank you, Annie. That was fantastic. That was like super fast and so much information all in there at the same time. So that was amazing. I think everybody enjoyed this quite a bit. I saw there was a lot of action going on in the chat. I don't know that I saw a question though. There was a whole bunch of talk though, which is great. There was some sideline chat as well. But
a lot of hate for sales, some love. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There was some of that for sure. And of course, Eric loves
so
it. The sleazier, the better. So
we did have a question, which is asking whether it needs to be mentioned anywhere that the visual is created using an AI tool. I think, I am not a lawyer, as I said, but what I would say is that it can't hurt. It can be nice to add a disclaimer at the bottom of your resource, or if you're in a LinkedIn post. Like, I think it's kind of a fun fact about if you create and be like, by the way, I created this, with an AI tool, etc. Like, I think that that's fine. I would disclaim it just like I would if you used other materials, but it can't hurt, I think, in many ways, to give credit.
Yeah, I think it is helpful and super fun that, you're like, hey, I made this with AI, and people can go, oh, that's pretty good. I understand a little bit better now.
Or they're like, oh, you use AI. This is
you
really
use
cool.
AI, exactly.
Something that's come up a lot too, or I don't know if we talked about it, Jimmy, before, but like, I know it's coming up in a lot of these conversations, y'all, which is some fear around AI replacing jobs and stuff. And one of the things I heard that it feels accurate is not to be worried that your job is going to be replaced by AI, but to worry that your job may be taken by someone who better understands AI than you do.
Exactly.
So that idea of, we are so human, right? Like, I think especially with coaching, it's such a human connection, but like, that's why I say don't be afraid to play with these tools and experiment. I've only been using them for about a year. And I developed this whole package or process approach years before AI existed. And now we're looking at like, well, how can we use AI to make that easier or better? And I do think it can play a role. It's going to be as ubiquitous as the internet, right? And people worry the internet would do away with a lot of industries. And to be fair, it did, but not the services industry and things like that. So I think that these are some good ways to start thinking about it so that you are protected in those ways, and you are going to be able to grow your profession. Because I know that's you guys are also passionate about what you do. I think since we're kind of a cozy group, you can unmute if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer them today while we're together.
I have a question, Annie. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this program. It was so easy to follow along, and I also made a ton of notes, and you just made this process more exciting versus being intimidating. So thank you.
You're welcome.
My question is related to the offer one pager, and in thinking along the lines of what our high value program or our priority program or our value, do you think that it's better to sort of stay high level with this offer and kind of keep it timeless? Or is it fair to kind of use the offer one pager depending on the different like service we're going to be offering, whether it's like a consultation or a chat? I'm just trying to figure out how the offer one pager fits within different channels or mediums that we would be leveraging to market ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And like, so let me attempt to answer that, and you tell me if you feel like it answers your question, if there's any gaps. So something that was really interesting to me is when I started, I've been doing the package or process work privately with clients for years, because it just came organically out of everybody was struggling with, how do I talk about what I do and how do I package it and do an offer, right? That was everybody's doing it. So I put it into a workshop last year. And one of the things I saw when we've done 2 cohorts so far, about 30 students. And what I saw was I had intended, hey, it's a workshop where you figure out one service that's your lead service, either your like, we talked about the sales VIP day or the 3-month, what is that lead thing that you use this offer one pager for? The phenomenon that I've gone on to see, and that I've since confirmed having surveyed a lot of students, is that the value of this whole idea and the one pager is to use it for everything. That it's a cheat code. It's a way to brand all of your services. They don't even have to be a high ticket service. I intended the high ticket service to get you some momentum. And I have some thoughts on feelings about how I feel like coaches tend to sell too much too quickly and then don't see results because they're trying to sell too much at once. So I do think it's a best practice to pick one to start with and really get some momentum and a foothold and then layer in another. But I have seen people have success with adopting this whole sort of visual method of selling across all their services. And like with me, And if any of you end up having a private conversation with me, you'll see that I have like a PDF with like 6 different one pagers. And what I do is I pull it up and then I can go back and forth, say, actually, it sounds like this. Well, actually, we should look at that. Or I'm meeting with a referral partner and I can walk them through what I do in 2 minutes or less from like every angle, because I have a one pager for kind of the core offers. And I don't just have one offer, right? Because I've been able to get one going. So I've added complexity in. So what I would say is this is a kind of Swiss Army knife. It is however you want to use it. The best practice, if you're new to it, pick a profitable service that's worth your time to get people in your world, really make it great, start getting some clients with it, and then start layering in these approaches for your other services. Does that encompass kind of what you were thinking about?
It does. It does. And I took a peek at the LinkedIn page, your profile, and I saw in your banner that you have the 3. And I do think it's very aesthetically pleasing and clear. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, one day I'll figure out the magic of 3. I'll have to go like research and then I'll have a better answer for it. It's like, it feels
people
right.
love odd numbers. Like odd numbers are just for visualization. Of course, whenever you're raising the volume on your television, it should always be an even number. But in the case of photography and marketing, it should always be an odd number, typically 3.
Yeah, the rule of 3 is my sharing. Yeah.
What other questions do we have out there?
I'll share one other thing that may be really resonant for folks that I feel like needs to be shared more, which is give us a nod or a thumbs up if you've heard about the concept of marketing touch points, as in the number of times an ideal client needs to have heard of you, seen your website, like something's happened where they connect with your business before they become your client. So give me a nod or a thumbs up if you've heard of that concept. The standard, thing that it's tended to be for many, many years has been 9 to 13. So the average has been someone needs to hear about your business, encounter it in some way 9 to 13 times before they hire you. And you're never going to get a call with someone and they're going to recount the 9 to 13 times, right? Like, oh, I saw someone, my friend mentioned you. And then a month later, I saw this thing you did. And then I signed up for your list. And then I got an email from you. Like that's how we kind of build relationships in marketing. Something that's really blown my mind, and I still am trying to find the statistic, but I feel it feels very true based on the people I know that make 6 figures and multiple 6 figures who've been confirming this on the back end for me. But I have heard that marketing touch points have increased 41 to 42. So they've gone from 9 to 13, but as of last year had jumped 41 to 42 as an average. Now there's some people who, only take 1 or 2 and they're just like the perfect fit for you, right? But it can be, I found articles from MailChimp that said like 20 to 50. So let's split the difference and say it's 2 to 3 times harder to get the same client in today's economy, right? And so what that means, especially for those of you who hate selling, is you've got to be more visible. You've got to increase and make it more possible for people to be talking about you in the elevator, seeing something you posted, right? Seeing you speak somewhere, because it's not going to take those 9 to 13. It might take up to 50 times for someone to have seen you, heard you, for them to come to you and become your client. So all of that to say that to hopefully give you some rocket fuel that for those of you who don't like self-promotion, you can't do too much of it right now, right? That's something to focus on, that there is opportunity there, but it is taking more and more. And I saw that behind the scenes of my own business. I've been talking to many people who are seeing that their launches aren't working as well. And that's because people need to build bigger trust. They need more time with you. They need more exposure to you before, in many cases, many of us are working with people who are spending their disposable income, right? And that's been on short supply with the pandemic and the economy. So that's something else that, doesn't really belong in this talk, but it's something to really pay attention to, that it has jumped significantly. So there's nothing you're doing wrong if you're not seeing the success, but recognize that, ask yourself, have I gotten in front of my ideal person enough? What can I be doing to be more visible? Because it is taking that 2 to 3 times as much.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think there's a number of reasons why that number is escalated. Number one, there's so many different venues, avenues, media to post to. Number two, everybody is trying to post anything. So there's just a massive amount of stuff. And I think the other thing is, oh gosh, I can't remember what it was. It was actually like the most important one, but You know, I'm getting old. Like those gray hairs are not going away. But I think that it's hard. Like people, social media is not, you know, we all flood social media. And I know there's so many people that are like, oh, you've got to have your social media campaign and blah, blah, blah. And Annie, you made a point of saying we're not talking about that here. And I think that's important. And I think the numbers have gone up because so many people are using social media as a form of advertising or marketing, a part of the marketing plan. And it's just not as effective as we hope it would be. And so those numbers have to escalate tremendously. And so if you do 20 posts and you do 2 public speaking talks, those 2 public speaking talks are going to make up for all that. So the number is high, but the effectiveness rate is still going to be in either the direct marketing to the inbox or in the public speaking arena, I think. I don't know for sure, but
I think you're spot on. I think AI too is becoming part of the problem here because you can create all kinds of content. And I'm like, you guys are going to become expert AI spotters because the next time you see exciting news alert or the rocket emoji, AI wrote that. ChatGPT wrote that, right? I can't unsee it anymore. So, you know, the social media is flooded with this kind of stuff. And the thing that I will say, I'm not a big social media fan, especially because I think it requires so much of you and you're less likely to get a great return on it. There are differences for everybody, but I think I've seen a lot of people burn out. I used to get burnout in like what I call the tactic tornado. My second book, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. I wrote an entire book for coaches and consultants that's all about how to grow your business without social media. You can get the first 50 pages for free if you click the link that's here, and you can download it to your Kindle or whatever, but it's called Establish Yourself. Yeah, get it. But it's literally like what I wrote and what I figured out how to do it is because here's the reality is like, if you don't love social media and you don't want to be on it, like that's like one of the biggest things my ideal clients have in common. They hate self-promotion. They hate social media. Right. And I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I just don't think it's worth the time. I do have some systems in for it, but I will say that like my clients come from speaking and from networking and from fostering, you know, having a great client experience that bolsters referrals. And I teach how to do that. So there's actually practical action steps in there that are like, look, it doesn't need to be all about social media, but the mistake is that we think that the question is, should I be killing myself doing social media marketing or should I not? And that's not the question. The question is, if I want to be successful, how am I scaling relationships? Do I want to do that via social media? Do I want to do that via networking, via speaking, via podcasting, via an email list? You can't skip out on that. Like if you don't love social media, fine, but you've got to find some other way to be visible and building relationships. That can happen. I was literally at a meeting this morning of women entrepreneurs, and I'm speaking for them next week. And that, even if I never showed up to something like this, that can still grow my business. So if you don't feel at home with social media, don't worry, but also don't leave a big gap for yourself. You know, let's increase those marketing touch points. There's other ways to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're going to do social media, let the AI do the heavy lifting and like, because it takes too damn long to do it ourselves. Like let the AI do the work. You know, Susan, you know, Susan's still on. I can't see her face right now. Anyway, but yeah, Eric and I did a podcast, or not a podcast, a webinar last year, and let AI do the heavy lifting if you feel like you have to be on social media for sure. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Annie. Like focus on those areas that are going to be high touch point and where you actually have a strong voice in, you're showing people what you do.
Yeah. And I think I've seen a lot of coaches. We talked a little bit about Jimmy and I was on another call and Jimmy was there and this came up, and I think with coaching, it can feel like a lot of people come to the table and say, well, how do I stand out? Yeah, that's why I call this your standout recipe, right? Because everybody thinks that, or I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of coaches come to the table and worry that they are not going to be successful because coaching is saturated, life coaching is saturated, business coaching is saturated, and they need some angle to stand out. And I think that that's always a mistake. I think that is searching for some holy grail that doesn't exist. And that ends up, you know, kind of being the excuse for why you're not scaling relationships, because you're looking for some perfect message or perfect angle. And I've written 100 brand voice guides. I know how to do that, and that is important. But what is most important is you being willing to go out there and build relationships and to clearly talk about what you do and share it with others. Like I use the example of, you know, how many people out there who are branding strategists who call themselves storytellers who help you with your story. Like if I let that keep me from growing my business, like I wouldn't be doing anything, right? But I'm not worried about that. I am focused on fostering relationships with the people I meet. And there's more than enough business to go around when I don't need to make, you know, $1 million, right? I don't need a bajillion people to be my client. So when you're in that boat, like if you're letting the fact that maybe there's other coaches who do similar things to you keep you from growing because you're afraid to talk about what you do, clarity is helpful. People are investing in clarity. They're not investing in creativity. And in fact, that creativity, that creative job title is backfiring on you because people may clap, but if they're not calling, it's not worth it because reactions do not equal revenue in coaching.
True.
Can I say something?
Please, Sue.
Yeah.
So
I've been waiting bated breath for you to speak up.
We're so ready.
My experience is I got certified as a life coach 4 years ago. Took a little, COVID. I didn't transition, starting again. And I'm finding that if you step into the social media, it gets so confusing. I am the salad bar. I love your visuals. I love how you, I love your approach. I'm very excited. There was someone else on earlier kind of doing the same thing, different approach. And I just really love the visuals, the simplicity. Like I could define what I'm doing and take it to this thing over here. So I love all that. I feel like though, I do need help getting really pinpointing what I'm doing. And my curiosity is because I hear a lot in this group, people do executive coaching, business coaching, entrepreneurial coaching. And on social media, it's like the thing that sells if you're gonna somehow make people money. And like the coaches coaching, do they even coach? So I'm curious about
Coach it, yeah.
My clientele has been women who are retired or women who are older, moving into their later in life. And it's like, I'm not selling anything. Maybe they're going to be creative and have more time. I guess I'm selling time. So I guess my curiosity is, am I going in the wrong direction? And is this viable? What I'm thinking. So do I need to become an executive coach? That kind of stuff comes up for me. Then I go down the salad, the salad bar get bigger. So anyways, yeah, I did sign up to do a 20-minute talk with you.
Okay, so we can talk in more detail then, but I will say a couple things. So I think life coaching is tricky. I think unfortunately, life coaching in many ways, I kind of see it like realtors. So like realtors, there are people who do amazing at it and people who make nothing. And there's really not a lot of in between. And so I think that the difference for life coaching, it's really going to matter. Are you selling something that's profitable to an audience that has disposable income and really needs what you're selling?
Yeah.
And often I find with life coaches, they're like, well, I just, I'm not going to talk about you because I don't know you yet. Right. So let's say other people I've met in the past or I've worked with, they can often be so captivated or wanting to help with transformation that they're overlooking, like, one example is somebody who is reaching homeschool moms who are on fixed income. They're not seeing any results. I'm like, yeah, you're not going to get anybody to buy this because they are not in a position to prioritize themselves. Like, yes, they can provide you can provide huge transformation for their life, but they don't even have the income to do this. And that's not at all to say that you can't help them. There are lots of ways, sliding scale, you can do some work pro bono, et cetera, but you've still got to pick an audience, who is your ideal audience of, I don't think you're necessarily on the wrong path. If like you want to reach retired women, you want to be reaching retired women who are affluent, who have some sort of, disposable income. You want to be offering them a branded solution that is very much based on what they've told you they want and what they've gotten out of it. So if you're like, I'm not sure it's time, I think a really great next step for anybody on the call, if you're trying to figure out that branded solution and you haven't done this yet, interview your ideal clients. the clients who you've loved working with, like ask them to coffee, ask them even better to a Zoom where you can record their answers and then feed the transcript into ChatGPT.
Oh, good
right.
idea.
But they're going to tell you, that's one of the biggest things. I used to think my point of difference was like, oh, I'm a storyteller and people want to tell their story. No, they don't. At least not with me. Like I had to interview a lot of people. I've since done like over 100 client interviews. I've made it part of my process. And one of the biggest things that I learned was that people don't come to me for storytelling. They come to me because they want clarity and they want to feel more confident. And so that's exactly what you heard from me today, right? Like exactly what I teach, exactly what I do. It's all oriented and positioned around that. But that didn't come from me. And if I relied on myself, I'd be dead wrong. Right. That's the first piece of my business was completely the wrong positioning because it was all about, well, this sounds good versus like the results I really got for people. No one said like, wow, you really helped me tell my story. It's like, no, you helped me be more clear. You helped me be more confident. It's all about what people want.
Cool.
But
Awesome.
I think you're on the right track if that aligns for you, right?
Yeah.
That the people you want, you're willing to sell them something profitable. Everybody can win. Be an executive coach if like I had a client who really fell more in the life coaching space, but the people she worked with were executives and leaders, and those folks were only looking to hire executive coaches. So in that case, made a lot of sense for her to be positioned as an executive coach. So that's why you would do it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, so you're definitely on the right track. You're helping, like, think about this, the transit, like most people, they're transitioning from one job to another. You're helping them transition out of work into the next great stage of their lives. Like that's an amazing transition. And that is super hard for people. And if you can help people find their intention, their purpose, or their passion in their after work years, that's amazing. And I saw Helena on there, you've already got a prospect because she's going to send you her mom's information. So yeah, get yourself on Facebook because that's where they all live. Get out there with the other grandmas.
Go fish in the right pond.
There's
100%.
You're on the right path.
Well, are they on Facebook? And also, are they at like social groups? Are they going to like day facilities for seniors and like that kind of thing? Like where are they hanging out? Are they at book club?
They're all playing
like they may not even be on.
They're all playing pickleball.
Go play pickleball. Yeah, yes. You need to go join a pickleball team and talk. But also don't make the mistake there is if when you show up in person, you need to talk about what you do. You need to be willing to talk about it because people go, well, I was doing all this stuff. I'm like, well, did you share what you did? Did you say it was for sale? That's I see coaches all online all day long with social media, but they never once talk about what's for sale. And so they make no sales and they never say book a consult with me or tell me about their offer because often they don't even have one because they're so focused on their marketing. So don't make that mistake. It's not just about scaling relationships has to happen in concert with you being brave enough to talk about who you are, what you do, and what you offer and how to get it.
Awesome.
Keep working it too. Don't give up on us. You got a good community here. Keep on leaning on us.
Thank you.
Yeah. ICF's where it's at, right, Jimmy?
That's right. All right, we got time for before I do make one last call for questions. I did put the link for the survey in there, so kind of give it a click. You can fill it out in a minute or so after we're done. You don't have to interrupt your time here. Just click it so you don't lose it and then fill it out later. But we have time for one more question. Who is going to be the lucky last question? It's the lucky last question. Lucky last question. Who is it gonna be? Lucky last question. Barbara, what's your question?
I was asking the same question to you, Jimmy. I was thinking.
What is it, Barbara? Come on now. You've got the question. I know you do.
I have a question. If nobody else has.
Please, Bettina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bettina. My question is this, Annie. By the way, great presentation, to the point, clear and amazing, not boring. Very great time with you. I have a question for you. How long did it take you to get where you are today, where you specifically know who is your target audience, who are us, and where you really, strategy-wise, you have all the elements in this presentation today for funneling to get us as your potential clients?
It's a good question. So how long did it take to have everything
20 minutes.
You saw today?
Yes.
20 minutes. I mean, so the short answer to that question is about 8 or 9 years. I've been in business 10 years as of last October. The longer answer is that everything I've been doing has been building upon itself. And I think that I used to think that having a great business was like building a house, and you're building this like custom house. And when everything is perfect, people will walk through the door in droves. Right. But I have found that a business isn't a house, it's a shark. And what I mean by that, if any of you have seen Annie Hall, there's an opening quote that's like, relationships are like sharks. They have to keep moving forward or they die. And I will say that stop thinking about your business as something that needs to be perfect, like this perfect house that will one day be perfect and fixed and immovable. It is an organism. It is a living, breathing animal that you need to keep it moving forward. And you need to figure out where you have those behavior bottlenecks, the things where you are maybe not proud to talk about what you do, so you don't. You don't feel good about your website, so you don't post it on LinkedIn. You got to fix those things so that your shark, your business shark, can stay alive, because that's its goal, is to keep swimming. And so my business has been swimming for the better part of 10 years. Do I have some of the ingredients of everything I just shared with you from day one? Absolutely. I still have the same logo. I still have some of the same messaging. I have some of the services changed. I had probably, I would say, like 60 to 70% of this a couple years in. I had like a lot of the ingredients. I would say the biggest struggle I had was the first 3 years. If you're looking at kind of time over thing. But historically, I have found that people, and coaching in particular, coaches are looking for this perfect business and this perfect message. And the best advice I can give to you is done is better than perfect. And one of the things I say in my first book is action beats talent. If you are willing to try things, experiment, and then stick with things for at least 3 to 6 months instead of chasing quick wins, you're going to see that add up over time. Like, I have done a lot in 10 years, 3 books, hundreds of clients, featured in Forbes, have this whole offer suite, because I've been willing to stick with stuff and fine tune it over time. So like the thread is all there. I'm not telling you it's going to take 8 or 9 years to be me. And I don't want you to be me. I want you to be you. I want you to be the best you can be and have the best business you can. And I think when we let go of it needing to look like Annie or Jimmy's practice or Elena's practice, and we say, what does my practice look like and why, and how am I going to get there? That's when you start to build your clear plan forward.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, Bettina, understand, even though this is 8 or 9 years in the making, think of how many goods went along the way, right? There was good. And Annie wasn't sitting around waiting to produce this one thing. There was actual revenue, there were sales, there was a lot of work happening. So there might have been 10,000 goods in between.
It's an up and down. No, I think all of us here, we're not at the beginning of those 90 years. Some are 2 years ahead, some are at year 7, some are at year 5. So all of us, depending where you are at a different timeline of their own evolution. Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Keep going, Bettina. You got this.
Thank you.
Keep moving forward. You're a shark. I know it.
Yeah.
Mindy's a shark. She's loving it. Alrighty, folks. Don't forget to do the survey. Don't forget to get the toolkit, because the toolkit is in the link. You just fill out the thing and do like Annie says.
Yep.
If you don't want to hear from Annie again, don't hit spam. Just unsubscribe. She's not going to be offended. She won't feel bad. The spam is actually bad for all of us. Don't do that. It makes us look bad, and the Google machine
only
says,
to people who
spam.
you didn't sign up. If they sign you up, mark it as spam. But if you're not sure, it hurts your fellow coaches and consultants. Absolutely. So make sure you just hit the unsubscribe button. It only hurts our feelings this much.
In fact, I never look, so I'm like, oh well, lost one.
There you go.
The MailChimp thing says, oh, you lost one. I'm like, oh well. No big deal.
Great to see you all. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Annie. That was amazing. And I look forward to working with you again real soon. And I wish all of you an amazing week. And I will see you all very, very soon. Bye, guys.